Back to our channel. We are in our miscellaneous physiology last lesson, that is body temperature regulation and cutaneous circulation. So let us start with some important terms and continue our discussion. So first we need to know what is conduction. So conduction is nothing but the loss of heat mainly by direct conduction from surface of the body to the solid object or air. It is like, for example, evaporation process only. Conduction means the heat is going from the surface of a body like a skin to the solid object. For example, if now you are sitting on chair, then the heat from your body now enters into object, or sometimes if just you are standing, it goes into air. So this is the process of conduction. And next let us see convection. Convection means removal of heat from the body by convection air currents. This usually occurs after heat loss by conduction. So first, now for example, now the heat need to loss from your body, then first you are sitting on a chair, so that heat first reaches into object, and after from object where it will go into air by means of what? Air currents. So this is nothing but convection. So after conduction, so whenever there is a process of heat loss in our body, it follows the path like first conduction, next convection. So remember that conduction means, you can understand, conducting from one substance on a substance, like that. So conduction from our body to objects. Convection means from that object to air. So that's what. And next let us see hypothermia. Hypothermia is a condition where the body temperature is abnormally low. In the heading only you can understand, hypo means low. So here the temperature is abnormally low and has the potential to be fatal. Yeah, of course our body should be always, temperature also should be in a homeostasis, that is around 37 degrees, we know that. So if there is any condition which is increasing or decreasing it, then it may be fatal for sure. Now let us see piloerection. Piloerection is a condition where the hair strands on its ends due to the sympathetic stimulation of muscles in a hair follicle. This is very important. How piloerection, or goosebumps, how they are formed when our hair follicle is standing on a end. Then how it can stand on its end? By means of mainly sympathetic stimulation. That is very important. So piloerection takes place due to the sympathetic stimulation of muscles of hair follicles. That is important. Now let us see radiation. So radiation, it's nothing but the emission of energy from a body in the form of infrared rays to the surrounding air. We know our radiation particles, which are radiation, are hazardous. If we do CT scan, is very having more radiations, and also some chemotherapy. So all those. So that radiation is nothing but emission of, mainly due to infrared rays. It damages our body. So this infrared rays into surrounding air. That is radiation. Now let us start our topic, body regulation. So first we need to understand what is the normal body temperature. So that this is also called as temperature of core, because for example, if we take a nucleus, we say in a center it is core, outer cell membrane, like that, nuclear membrane, like that. So in a normal body also, inside temperature, that inside body temperature is nothing but known as temperature of core, or also deep tissue of the body. So it is always very constant within plus or minus 1 degree Fahrenheit, plus or minus 0.6 degrees, except when the person has febrile illness and if skin temperature increase or decrease along with the surroundings. So when the skin temperature varies, then also our internal body temperature also varies according to regulate it. And also when someone have some kind of febrile, very weak illness, um, then also temperature changes. So 1 or plus or minus 1 means 36, around 36 or around 38, it's okay, it's also normal. But if it is having a variable change, then we can say that our body temperature is abnormal. Now let us see what is normal core temperature. It is measured orally from less than 97 degrees Fahrenheit or 36 degrees to greater than 99.5, that is up to 37.5 degrees Celsius. So what is this normal core temperature? It is measured orally. Then from less than 97 to 99.5 Fahrenheit. And if average, this average normal core temperature is around 98 degrees Fahrenheit and 98.6. So exactly we can say this is the perfect normal body temperature, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit when measured orally, and about 1 degree Fahrenheit higher when measured rectally. So always it's better to measure our temperature orally. So orally you can say it is 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. If rectally means 1 degree Fahrenheit is increasing, because in that area there is more amount of heat when compared with our mouth. And next, the rate of heat production is always greater than the rate of heat loss. Heat production means how heat is producing in our body, and heat loss, heat is not lost means so much. Heat producing in our body is only very high when compared with heat loss. And body heat and temperature. rate of heat loss, that is body heat and decrease in temperature. So we know whenever heat loss is more, then body heat and temperature both decreases because heat is now lost from our body. So here what happens in the rate of heat production, heat is producing in our body means body's temperature is getting increased. In this case rate of heat production means body's temperature is increased, rate of heat loss means body heat and temperature is getting reduced. But remember that always this heat production, that is body temperature increase, is only always greater when compared with heat loss. Now let us see heat production. So now let us see heat production. So the principal byproduct of metabolism is nothing but our heat production. So first one, the basal rate of metabolism of all cells, and extra metabol, yeah, we know it is a basal rate metabolism of all cells, that is every cell in our body has a regulation of its heat. And also extra metabolism is caused by muscle activity including contraction causing shivering. So all these are extra conditions, whenever we do more exercise, or whenever there is more contraction of muscle, then heat is also increased. And whenever there is shivering process, then also heat is increased in the body. And extra metabolism is also done by thyroxine. Whenever thyroxine levels are high, then the heat production in the body will be high because of high basal metabolic rate. And also lesser by growth hormone and testosterone. Heat is reduced by growth hormone and testosterone. And extra metabolism by epinephrine and sympathetic system. And again extra metabolism by increase in chemical activity when cellular temperature is increased. So all these conditions mainly lead to increase in the heat. So sixth one, you can see it's extra metabolism for digestion, absorption. So for all this also heat is increased. So whenever you eat lot of food, you can understand there is like some heat feeling in your body because heat is increased. Whenever do high strenuous exercise, heat is produced. And for storage of food, and this is called as thermogenic effect of food. So thermogenic effect of food is nothing but even for the digestion of food, for absorption, all this also heat is required. And in turn it also produces lot of heat in the form, it forms energy first, and this energy of course later produces heat. So even for the processing of the food you require heat, and also for production after energy is also in turn giving heat. And next, let us see heat loss. Now we'll understood how it is produced in different ways. Now let us see how is heat is lost from our body. So most of the heat which is formed in deep organs like liver, brain, heart, skeletal muscle during exercise. In skeletal muscle, only in skeletal muscle during exercise. In deep organs, first what happens is how heat is lost. This process is like first from the deep organs it reaches some external peripheral tissues, and from tissues it next reaches to our skin, and from skin it goes directly outside into the air. So this is how it is lost from our body. You can imagine it. So what are the factors affecting this heat loss? Let us see. The first one is the rapid, when rapidly heat is conducted from where it is produced to the skin. So the factors are like when rapidly heat is conducted from, for example, deep organs to the skin. And it also depends on the rapidly when heat can be transferred from the skin to the surroundings. So of course these are the main factors, because from deep tissues it is coming up to skin, and from skin how it is going to outside. So these are the main factors on which the heat loss is dependent. So now let us continue our discussion. Now we are at insulator system. So now let us see insulation. Insulation means what? It doesn't allow something. Let us see. In the case of current, and why is there is insulation? Whenever there is insulation, you will not get current shock. So let us see what our body has. So skin, subcutaneous tissue, fat of subcutaneous tissue are mainly heat insulators for our body. So fat plays very important role. It conducts the heat only one third as readily as others. So insulation means you can understand skin, subcutaneous tissue, fat. They are all heat insulators for our body. So insulator system which is working beneath our skin, it is also effective to maintain the internal core temperature, even though it allows the temperature of the skin to approach surroundings. So this is very important. Insulator system which is working below the skin. For example, this is skin, right? So below the skin also we have some insulation system which is very effective to maintain the internal core temperature, because you can understand it is below skin means it is somewhat nearer to internal core temperature. So even though it allows the temperature of skin to approach the surroundings, so we know it is approaching to surroundings, then it can become more cool, but not, it is insulating, it is maintaining the temperature properly. So remember, skin, subcutaneous tissue, fat of subcutaneous tissue mainly act as heat insulators for our body. Now let us see the cutaneous circulation. So blood flow mainly to skin from the body core and provides the heat transfer. So no blood flow from the heated internal organs to the skin. insulating properties of normal male is equal to 3 quarters of usual suit clothes. So what you need to understand here is what is cutaneous circulation. It is nothing but the blood which is flowing to skin from the body core. Body core means from inside to skin, how much blood is flowing, which provides heat transfer, because you can understand from body core the heat is getting transferred into skin. So this is nothing but a cutaneous circulation. And remember that there is no blood flow from the heated internal organs to the skin when it is insulating, of course. So insulating properties of a normal male is always equal to 3 quarters of usual suit clothes. For example, if you wear some suit clothes like sweaters or anything, how it would be that effect? The same effect is present in a normal male normally. So in a female, the insulation is very high when compared with male, because due to continuous venous plexus which is supplied by inflow of blood from the skin capillaries. So always remember that when there is higher blood flow to our skin, you can understand lots of amount of sweating goes on and heat is lost from our body, and it is always maintained at a normal temperature. In female, they're having more amount of insulation even because of more amount of adipose tissue when compared with male. And now in hands, feet, ears, the blood is mainly also supplied to the plexus directly from the small arteries by highly muscular AV anastomosis, that is arteriovenous anastomosis. In hands, feet and ears, blood is also supplied to the plexus, that is venous plexus, directly from the small arteries by high muscular AV anastomosis. So because of AV anastomosis, it need to pass very slowly in between other pathways. It can easily travel from arteries to venous system by highly muscular arteries, small arteries, so that blood is also supplied even to our hands, feet and ears, so even they can maintain their homeostasis of temperature. So the rate of blood flow vary from 0 to 30% of total cardiac output, and there is increase in skin flow. Increase in means when the blood flow is increased in skin, it causes heat to be conducted from the core of the body to the skin with great efficiency, whereas reduction in rate of skin flow can decrease the heat conduction from core significantly. So this is very important point to understand. So whenever you will observe more heat coming towards your skin, means the lot of heat is coming from your internal body up to the skin, so that now it can easily pass out from our body to the surroundings. But when skin temperature is low, then you can understand that from internal core of the body not that much of heat is coming up to your skin. So by the skin temperature we can easily find out that how much uh, flow of um, heat is coming from our internal body. So heat conduction to the skin mainly by blood is controlled by the degree of vasoconstriction of arterioles and AV anastomosis that supply the blood to the venous plexus of the skin. So whenever you can understand, whenever there is vasoconstriction, the blood flow is decreased. So whenever the blood flow is decreased, you can easily understand there is lot of heat accumulation in the body. So this vasoconstriction usually happens when you are walking in a very cold wind. So whenever the temperature is very cold outside, then your body's blood vessels undergo vasoconstriction and the blood flow is decreased, thereby you can increase the heat in your body. So this vasoconstriction is mainly controlled by our sympathetic nervous system in response to change in body core temperatures and also change in environmental temperature. So now let us see radiation. Mainly radiation causes a heat loss in the form of infrared rays. So in room temperature, the 60% of total heat is lost only by radiation. So only in room temperature by radiation about 60% of body's heat is lost. So most of the infrared rays are electromagnetic ray and they radiate from the body, and they have the wavelength of 5 to 20 millimeter and 10 to 30 times the wavelength of light rays. So this is some important information regarding radiation. So all objects that are not at absolute zero temperature radiate such rays, and human body radiates heat rays in all directions, and the heat rays also radiate in the walls of rooms, in objects of body. So that's what that is called conduction. As we discussed before, conduction means from the body to the objects. So whenever if the body's temperature is increased, then the temperature of surroundings is always greater quantity of heat is radiated from the body. So that's what we are saying. Whenever our body temperature is increased, even our surroundings temperature would affect, because from our body's temperature from skin it will go outside to our surroundings. Then it is radiated to the body. So again this is again we'll see if the temperature of body is greater than the temperature of surroundings. Sorry, this is one more point. If the temperature of body is greater than temperature of surroundings, then greater quantity of heat is radiated from the body to the surroundings. Of course, when always like it's like osmosis process, like, or diffusion process from higher side to lower side. So even temperature, when temperature in our body is only very high when compared with surroundings, then the temperature tries to lost from our body, it tries to come out from our body and goes to the surroundings when compared to our body. So by direct conduction, only 3% of heat is lost to the objects, and by conduction to air, 15% of the heat is lost. And air convection means the surrounding temperature and the body temperature is equal by continuous exchange between our unheated air, and it is continually brought in contact with the skin. So this is called as air convection, not air convection. This is one of the point, like always between our surrounding and our core temperature the exchanges are going on. So at some final stage comes that our body heat and also our surrounding will be equal. So what is air convection? In by air convection, 15% of the air is lost by our body. So the cooling of wind decreases velocity, and it is directly proportional to the square root of wind velocity. So wind, if for example it is 4 miles per hour, it is twice as effective for cooling as wind of 1 mile per hour. And water specific heat is 1000 times greater than the air. So water can absorb more heat than air. This is important. Water can absorb more heat when compared with the air. So heat loss of water is greater than air if the temperature of water is below body temperature. So most of the heat can be absorbed by water only, and most of the heat is also again lost by the water only when compared with air if the temperature of water is below the body temperature. And next, coming to evaporation. So here you need to understand the point. When the temperature of water is below our body temperature, then only heat is lost from our water. And now let us see the process of evaporation. So when fluid evaporates from our body, 0.58 kilocalorie of heat is lost for each gram of water that evaporates. And even when a person is not sweating, and water evaporates insensibly from the skin and lungs at about 600 to 700 ml per day. So you can see the word here, insensible water loss means without our consciousness it just gets out from our body. It is continuous heat loss, that is about 16 to 19 calories per hour is gone by this insensible process. Here insensible heat loss is mainly done by our skin and lungs, and it can't be controlled for temperature regulation because it is continuously diffusing out of water by skin and lungs. So it is not under control. But loss by sweat can be always regulated. That's what homeostasis of temperature regulation is, mainly by sweat and also by maintaining the body temperature. So if there is increase in temperature, then the water is lost mainly by evaporation in the cooling process. When the outside temperature is very high, then the water is lost by process of evaporation. This is a cooling process. As you can understand, there outside the temperature is very high, our body now wants to be cool from inside, so it just push out more water from our body in the form of sweat, so that our body will be now cool. So by radiation and also conduction, there is heat loss process going on. So who can't get evaporated? Some people have some congenital defects, like they don't have congenital sweat glands, and they develop the heat stroke in hot areas. You can understand heat stroke because you can say like sunstroke, because they don't have sweat glands, they can't cool their uh, body naturally, so now they are at very risk of heat stroke. And who can't get evaporated, yeah. And by wearing clothes, like heat loss is decreased up to half. By wearing clothes, the heat loss is decreased up to half percent, because thickness of the clothes is very high, so the heat loss is decreased to about 1/6. And when cloth is wet but the water is more evaporated, and the rate of heat loss is 20-fold when the clothes are wet, because as we said, water have more heat capacity. So when the water is if you are wearing wet clothes, then the rate of heat loss would be very high when compared with normal dry clothes. So actually what happens, there is a stimulus to our anterior hypothalamus, which gives a stimulus in turn to preoptic area, and this causes sweating. This sweating is now giving a signal to our autonomic nervous system. This reaches our spinal cord, and by sympathetic outflow it reaches to our skin, and by skin to our sweat glands, and these sweat glands are now in turn innervated by cholinergic nerve fibers, and this secrete the acetylcholine but that run in sympathetic nerve along with the adrenergic fibers. So also now the sweat glands are stimulated by epinephrine and norepinephrine which are present in our blood. So even though they don't have the adrenergic innervation, they activate our sweat gland. So this is very important during the exercise because now the body needs to lose excessive amounts of heat which is produced by the active muscle contraction. So sweat gland is actually a tubular structure. It is having two parts. The first one is a deep subdermal coiled portion that secretes the sweat, and the duct portion which mainly passes outward through the dermis and epidermis of the skin. And the sweat gland secretory part secretes 10 secretions or precursor secretion, primary secretion or precursor secretion, which is an active product of epithelial lining coiled part of sweat gland, and cholinergic sympathetic fibers ending on or near the glandular cells elect mainly this secretion. So this secretion is mainly similar to plasma. You can say this secretion is mainly similar to plasma, but it has no plasma proteins, and here the sodium value is about 14 liters and chlorine is 104, and other solutes of plasma are also present. And remember that this secretion is very higher in urea when compared with plasma, and it also having lactic acid 4 times greater than plasma, and potassium is 1.2 times greater than plasma. So loss of salt occur when the sweat in a person with an acclimatized to heat. What is this unacclimatized? Means the person is not getting adapted to the heat. If the person is adapted to the heat, then the salt will not lost from the body. But if that person is not able to adapt to that particular environment, then for sure the sodium chloride salt will get out from the body. So acclimatized person, that is a person who adapted to that environment, may produce 1 liter of sweat per hour for hot climate up to 1 to 6 weeks. Then he may increase its sweat as much as 2 to 3 liters per hour. So the person who is adapted to that specific environment, then he can easily produce lot of sweat and he can keep his body cool. So there is decrease in salt in sweat in an acclimatized person due to the increase in aldosterone and decrease in sodium chloride in extracellular fluid and plasma. So unacclimatized person, there is lot of sweat loss with 50 to 30 gram of salt each day, and after 4 to 6 weeks acclimatization is lost, and 3 to 5 grams per day of salt is produced. This is very hard for them. So if some person is not able to adapt to that specific place, then he need to completely come back to its normal temperature. That is better to his life. Now let us see the regulation of body temperature is mainly done by hypothalamus. It has some temperature regulatory center by mainly nervous feedback mechanism and also having the temperature detectors. So by all this system, it is controlling our body temperature. So the anterior hypothalamic preoptic area have heat sensitive neurons